guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Stephanie and I'm here to do my April wrap-up. And this month I read 15 books. Yes, I deserve a round of applause. That's the most I've read in a month in a very long time. So I am more than happy about my accomplishment. So let's go ahead and start with the first book that I read. During my process for reading, I usually like to keep a little journal, and I like to write the books that I've read, pretty much when I start and when I end, which is kind of what I mean, Goodreads already does that, right? So, but sometimes I forget to update it on Goodreads, but I never forget to update it in my little journal. So I do that in tandem with writing my stories, kind of doing like a little summary of what I read. So the first book that I read, this one's a little bit chaotic, so just want to warn you about the first book that I'm going to show you. It is part of a series. I am going to continue reading the series. I just didn't get to it in time for this month. But anyways, the first book that I read is Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. And she was a big one. She's big, she's thick. So I'm just gonna go over kind of what this book is about. Try to condense it down because I did read quite a few, so I don't want to give like these big explanations. Just trying to get to the point. So in this book, we're following multiple point of views. Like there is a lot of characters in here that we're following. What's interesting is not only do we get obviously the main character, the main love interests point of view as well, but also like some of the friends that are in this little band of people. But we also get like the I wouldn't say the villain, but this character does do a lot of things that are maybe questionable, I guess. But anyway, so so we're following Coraine. So she's the daughter of a well-known pirate, and she's also her mortal blood sings to the blade that can open the world, called a spindle. Yeah. Then there's Andry, a squire who knew Coraine's father. He's also part of the whole little group of this little ragtag team that we have. Then we have Dom, who's an immortal, who also spent time with Coraine's father. And then we have Sarasa, she's an assassin. So pretty much they all become a group because they want to bring the realm back together, because there is a growing evil force that's happening. So they all kind of team up with their own special abilities and special powers. And so one of the big thing is there's a lot of world building in this book. There's a lot of politics, with the the royalty and the world and stuff like that. There is quite a bit of betrayal. This was a non-stop action type of book. There wasn't a lot of like there wasn't a relationship type of thing that builds, but you can kind of see where maybe some characters will lean towards maybe a possibility of a relationship. So it is kind of put together really quick, like these band of like people. So it's hard to say that they become like best friends, because there really isn't a lot of relationship building, neither romantically or for friendship. So it was kind of a hard book. So I did give this a a 4-star. I really didn't feel a real connection. It was just a lot of information, a lot of world building, but just there wasn't connections with these characters. So maybe, hopefully, as I continue the series, hopefully I am going to try to read the second book, so hopefully I can get that connection with that second book. I'm hoping, because I know the series is done, it's over. The third one already came out about a couple months ago, so I am going to try to power through. We'll see how the second book goes, and if I like it more, hopefully I feel a spark with this second book, so hopefully. The second book, I don't have the physical book with me, so I'll just pop it up here, but it was Corrupt by Penelope Douglas. Now, if you know anything about Penelope Douglas and her books, she definitely is like a dark fantasy. She does write like bully romances and stuff like that. So yeah, this one was quite interesting. This was definitely different than like Birthday Girl, which is one of my favorites, and Punk 57, another one of my favorites from her. So I tried to, delve into some of her other books, and I kept seeing Corrupt. So I know this is part of like a series, but it's a standalone. So you don't have to read the entire series. You can just kind of read this one if you want, and you don't have to read the rest of the books. So I was okay with that. Okay, so we start with Rika and her boyfriend, who is Trevor. And Trevor has an older brother named Michael. And he's always kind of standoffish towards her for the longest of time, because I guess he just tries to avoid her. He sees her like a very annoying younger person, and he just doesn't want to deal with her. This is his little brother's girlfriend, so it's kind of like, okay, let's just kind of stay away from me, pretty much. So we start seeing that there's snippets of an event that happened, which Michael blames Erica for, or Rika, as they like to call her for short, for whatever reason. But either way, so we start seeing like two different timelines from leading up to an event between Michael and his friends and Erica, and then present day. So present day, Erica is, in college. She's like living on her own. She finds out that the building is actually owned by Trevor and Michael's father. Like, it's one of their buildings that they own because they're very well off and rich. And it's always assumed that Erica and Trevor will eventually get married. So it's kind of like, well, of course, just stay on one of the properties. This takes place about 3 years ago, whenever the situation comes about. And Michael wants to pretty much exact revenge on her, and what he says that she did to him and his friends, because his friends ended up going to jail for various crimes that were committed, and they're blaming her, that she's the one who told on all of them, on everything that they ever did. And pretty much they all have their sights on her. But as time passes, and he can't stay away from Erica. And after like all the truths come out and we find out who's actually responsible for everything, the story takes like a wild, crazy ride, and I'm a little bit mind blown on like the ridiculousness of everything that kind of happens. This last like fourth of the book, like everything was good up until that fourth of the last of the book, and I'm like, what am I reading? This is ridiculous. This would never happen. This is unbelievable. but I still ate it up. And I read it and I finished it and I was like, okay, that's cool. That's great. I think I gave this a 4-star. This was a 4-star read for me. Definitely not one of my best reads from her, but I am still willing to give her books a chance. So we will see what she has in store in regards to her other books. I know she's written a lot more books, so we will see. All right, the third book that I read was Twisted Love by Ana Huang. This is part of the Twisted series. It is so good. I really enjoyed this book. I cannot wait to read the next 3 books in this series on top of her other series that she has. I believe it's like the King of Sins or something like that series, which I do have. So I'm excited to start those, but this one was so good. So we're following Ava and Alex. And Alex is a wealthy businessman and a friend of Josh. Josh is Ava's brother. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background. He barks at any little noise, so yeah. Anyways, so as Josh is going to be leaving for a year, he becomes worried that while he's away that his sister, like, she needs protection. He asks Alex for a favor. He's like, can you please move into my apartment, which is like right beside where Ava is living at with her friend. It's like, can you please stay here, watch over her, protect her while I'm away? And Alex is like, okay, fine, I'll go ahead and do that. So it is a fun trope. It's a Sunshine Grumpy trope, and it is absolutely amazing. And well, anyway, so they both, Alex and Ava, they both have very difficult backgrounds. It happened to his family, like he lost a lot of members of his family, unfortunately. And Ava has lost, her mother. So they both, she doesn't know like all the details because he's always been just a family friend of Josh, and who has come to like some dinners and things like that. And he's out for pretty much revenge, to get revenge on who he thinks is responsible for the death of his family. So he's like a very wealthy man. He is very like connected, well connected. Like him and his uncle are very well known. He's known like as a playboy, but he doesn't commit. And she, she had just got out of a very terrible relationship, where her ex had cheated on her, but he still like wants her back. So he's like stalking her, and yeah, a bit of craziness there. But anyways, so as they both kind of learn about each other, they start having feelings for each other, spending this time together as he's trying to protect her. And yeah, it was a fun read. I really liked this. It was a 5-star read for me. So I cannot wait for, I know it's a series, but I believe they're based on like different characters each book. So I'm excited to see what the next book brings. I cannot wait. So yes, recommend this book definitely if you are into that. It's a little spicy, so I do love my spice, and it was perfect. It had a great amount and it was great. I love the story from start to finish. So yes, go ahead and read it. All right, so the fourth book that I read is The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. And this is my Fairy Loot copy. It's so beautiful. She's so gorgeous. So yes, so I read this one. My thoughts. So we start with the wedding. And it's a wedding of a friend of the main character, Taliesin. Unfortunately, after like the wedding, an attack happens. And during this attack is when she meets Alaric maybe, which is funny because obviously it reminds me of the Vampire Diaries. Right now they're in what's called the Hurricane Wars. So they're being attacked. Due to these hurricane wars, unfortunately Taliesin becomes an orphan due to it. So she like loses her family. So she's just grown up, you know, with her friend who's getting married and joining their forces and, you know, trying to fight, you know, in this war against the enemy. So while fighting against the enemy, she fights Alaric, who's the prince of the Night Empire. During this fight, it's revealed that she uses some sort of powers that are very rare. I believe like a light weaver or something. So they learn that. So of course they want to go back to get her because they're not supposed to exist. They're trying to hunt them down. So Alaric just keeps trying to like find her, dispose of her, kill her, obviously. So they're sworn enemies. So we get, in this book, we get a found family, we get marriage of convenience, we get enemies to lovers. So all the things that I do like. The found family aspect, I just think that revealed that it just happened so quickly that was like, okay, what just happened? Like all of a sudden she has this family and now she's in a marriage of convenience to the enemy, and like what's going on? Like how did this come about so fast? And then we also get this dynamic with Alaric and his father, and I just hate how they portrayed Alaric in the book a bit, like just being kind of like cowardly with his dad, you know. I just didn't like that. It just felt so, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. No, they're both playing each other, obviously, but they're also falling for each other. So no matter how much they try to deny it, they know that there is some sort of chemistry there. I do like how they're both inexperienced. It's sometimes rare in books that, you know, both characters are not experienced at all with love in general. So, but you know, everything does feel a little bit rushed in the beginning, and then towards like the second part of the book, everything just kind of like goes like kind of at a standstill. And I don't know if it's just me that feels that way with this book, whoever has read it, but I felt like the first half, like we get so many things happening at once, and then the last half, like nothing really happens. So for those reasons, I do believe I gave this a 4-star. I do want to read the second book, but we'll see. I'm still kind of hesitant I'll have to see reviews first before I buy the second book. So we'll see. I don't know if anybody else got into their cowboy era reading these, but I sure did, and I was invested and I loved it, and it was great. It was a fun time. I loved it. So the first book is book 1, which is Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. So just a quick synopsis on this. So we're following Clementine Ryder, or Emmy for short. She abruptly leaves her boyfriend, her apartment, her career behind, and she moves back to Wyoming. We get her point of view, and we also get the point of view of Luke Brooks. His best friend is the brother of one of the brothers of Clementine. So we find that after she moves back, she had like a terrible thing kind of happen to her. So every time that she gets on horses, because she would compete on horses, she finds that she gets like really bad anxiety. And, you know, we learn, you know, as we go through the story, we learn what happened and why she's so scared now of getting back on her horse, or any horse for that matter. She just starts getting like anxiety attacks once she starts getting close to the barn and like on her parents' ranch. And she like, so Luke, because he works on her parents' ranch, he kind of sees this and he slowly starts to help her through this and get her through this tough time. And as one does, she falls for this amazing, charming cowboy. And, you know, it was such a cute, short romance. Like, usually I'm very hesitant to read short books that are romance because I just feel things happen too quick. The pacing is always just terrible, and it you don't get enough story, you know, while the romance is going or what have you. But this was just so well done. I was in awe of these books, and I cannot wait for the third one. And obviously that's why I read the second one. But anyway, so to finish this off, so obviously as he's helping her through these things, you know, feelings start to emerge, and, you know, they find each other, you know, because they both have different circumstances that are happening, and she finds out about his, and she's there for him and she supports him. And I love that. That was so beautiful. This book was a 5-star, and I would never stop recommending this enough. This is my first cowboy type book I've ever read in my life, and I kind of want to explore that genre now. I want to know more about cowboy stories, but for now, these were well done, and I recommend, if you are like me and have never read anything cowboy related type of book, this is a good one. I highly, highly recommend this. It was beautifully done, and that's all I can say. So let's move on to the book 2 of this series, and that was called Swift and Saddled. So it's pretty much following, I think they're called the Blue Rebel Ranch like series or something like that. If anything, I'll just put that down here. But anyway, so this follows Weston, and he's the brother of Emmy, but not the best friend of Luke, because she only has 2 brothers. And anyway, so this follows him, Weston, and this follows Ada. So Ada is a designer, like an interior designer. That is her goal. That's her life goals. That's what she wants to do. She is looking at this project, which I'll go over that. She's looking at her next project as this is what's going to make her, this is what's going to shoot her career off, that she has, you know, she can work, you know, with anything. So being hired at the Blue Rebel Ranch, this is gonna put her name on the map pretty much, and everybody's gonna want to work with her, hopefully. Well, she knows one of the family. I believe she's the friend of Emmy. She is pretty much getting out of a divorce, so because of that, she wants to, you know, make a name for herself. She is so wary of people, or men, I want to say, because her ex-husband was very controlling of everything that she would do. So she doesn't want to be put in that situation anymore. And anytime any man tells her something that she might have to do, she's like, no, let's stop that right there. And she gets very cautious, and I understand. I would see where she's coming from, of why she's so standoffish and why she kind of, you know, wants to stay away from Weston, who all he wants to do is rebuild this old farmhouse into like a bed and breakfast, because, you know, that patch of land is going to be under his name, and he wants to build something that's for his own and not because it's his family's. So Yeah. But as they're working together and putting this barn house together, you know, they both learn to kind of let go and trust each other. And it is such a beautiful relationship. And it's so nice to see that they're both going through something. So because of that, they learn to support each other and to love each other through it and to talk about it. So it's so beautiful, and I love this book so much as well. I don't have the physical copies. I just rented out the audiobooks from Libby, but trust me, when I get a chance, because I actually want to go to Barnes and Noble, I want to buy the physical copies. So hopefully I can do that soon. The men portrayed in these books, they're literal perfection, and I'm excited for book 3 because the seventh book that I read was actually, it's called Losers by Harley LaRoe. My gosh, you guys. I'm going to keep it very, very simple on this book. It was a why choose type of book, which means she had multiple partners. So yeah, that was an interesting read. That was the first time I've ever read a why choose book. And will I ever read another one? Yes, I will, because there is a second part to this book and I kind of want to know what happens because it kind of left on a bit of a cliffhanger on the first book. So I actually want to see where this book goes. Her name is Jessica, and then there's Manson, Jason, Lucas, and Vincent. So they all, like all these boys, they're known as like outcast freaks. No one wants to be with them. No one, like, their backgrounds, they come from terrible backgrounds, you know, that they have, you know, they have bad reputations pretty much. So nobody likes them. They, like, in high school, all the popular kids treated them like garbage. So now a couple years later, Jessica finds them again. She sees them in town because she is forced to move back home, and she sees them again, and it brings up old feelings of things that happened during prom, which you don't get exactly what happened, but snippets of it, you know what happened. But anyways, so in her mind, she's like, I'm the popular girl. I was the cheerleader. Like, this was just a one-time thing that happened, never gonna happen again. But she sees them again and all those feelings come back and she can't stay away. So yeah, she starts kind of hanging out with all the boys again. I don't care. I'm not picky. I don't care about the male. I'm fine with that. That's great. That's awesome. I love it. But I was like, ugh, I was hoping at least just one guy would just be like, I want Jessica for all myself. But no, they just all love to share her. But I thought one would maybe be more in love with her, I guess. I don't know what I was expecting, but that's okay because I'm still going to read the second book, and that's all that matters. But anyways, if you are into that type of book and you like spicy, like heavily spicy book, I recommend this one to you. This one was an interesting read, and yeah, it was actually very fast paced. I actually did read this physically, like for a few chapters, and then I moved to the audiobook. But yeah, it was quick. Eighth book that I read was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This was a reread, and I just love this book, and I always try to reread it at least once a year. It is a YA book. Please do not be deceived. This is more political than romance. So, you know, I hate that they're like, oh, well, where's the romance in this book? And it's like, well, there is none. It's very minimal to the story. This is more about the politics. And, you know, if you go into the mindset when you read this book that this is about politics, this is about moving pieces and trying to make the right choices for your family and whatnot. Like, you'll be okay. Obviously, if you're okay with that type of book. This is about Jude, who comes from a mortal world. She has a twin sister named Taryn, and guys, I do not like Taryn at all. I do not like her. But anyways, I digress. And then she has another sister who hates being a fairy, you know, part of the fairy world. She hates her father because her father was responsible for taking her mother away, her stepfather away, and, you know, ultimately taking her away from the mortal world. So she pretty much acts out against him. But while, you know, she's there, she's going to the school. So, and she loves being in the fairy world, even though she kind of hates but respects her adoptive father. She just can't imagine herself living anywhere else but the fairy world. So because of it, she's always bullied. Her and Taryn are always bullied by Cardan, by Prince Cardan, and, you know, his little gang of friends. So he's always doing things that are pretty much to torture her and Taryn. But she seems to get the brunt of it. You know, a whole coup happens at the coronation. So she has to work with Cardan, and that's where the moving pieces are. But she kind of learns from working with Cardan, kind of, that she needs to move like a bunch of chess pieces in order to protect her family. But she's also very aware that she may have some feelings for Cardan, and Cardan might have some feelings for her. But again, this is not a romance book. This is about politics. So just want you to be clear. Even though there is minimal mentions of it, they're beautiful. Beautiful. I just love it. I love this book series so much. Anyways, so that was that. And then I read The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. Ooh, okay, I need to talk about this book. I was so excited. Like, it looked like it was gonna be the premise was there. The premise was there. I just did not like the execution of this book. There are so many multiple point of views like happening in one chapter. It was so hard to keep up with it. So hard. But I digress. Let's start from the beginning. So we're following Violet Everly, and she is the daughter of Marianne, who seems to be missing and has some sort of a debt with Penelope. And Penelope is pretty much a beautiful, ageless woman who we later learn is like kind of like a god. And she also has an assistant named Alexander, who she is constantly being mean and degrading, and she mistreats him. But he is there. That's all he knows. He kind of was raised by her. But Violet tries to find her mother, and pretty much because there's this debt against her family line, and Penelope needs to collect on that debt, pretty much like one person per generation. And when Marianne goes missing, they're like, okay, I'm going to collect on Violet then. But obviously she has these two uncles that try to intervene, Gabriel and Ambrose. Those are her uncles. They do appear a bit in the book, but they try to make a deal with Penelope. They're like, look, give us this time to try to find Marianne, and if we can't find her, then yes, we understand you need to collect on your debt. So during these 10 years of trying to find Marianne, trying to see where the heck she is. We have, you know, Violet, who it's so hard because she keeps like being hidden from the truth, and it's so frustrating because like, just tell her already. So anyway, so the reason why the curse is happening is because of something that happened many years ago, like great grandfather's times, you know, 10 maybe, that happened. And that's where this deal has happened, this debt is coming from. So it's honestly is just to keep up with this book, and there's just so many moving pieces. I don't know. I didn't like the writing style at all. Like, I was generous. I did give this a 3.5 just because I liked the point of view of Penelope. She was rough, but she was such a good villain, and I honestly enjoyed her parts more than everybody else's. Violet just seemed so naive, so like a child, and Alexander, unfortunately, was just such a broken soul, and you just kind of feel bad for him the entire time. Like, you know, keep his master Penelope happy, but he also, you know, wants to help Violet, but I don't know, it feels like he keeps getting pushed into two different directions, but he always kind of goes back to Penelope. There is some sort of a semblance of magic in this book. There's like these magical keys that they can use to kind of go back between worlds, and they think that maybe her mom is like stuck in one of these worlds. So that's what they're trying to do. She's trying to like get access to go to this place to find her mom. And in the end, we don't really get a resolution on where her mom is. Like, is she alive? Is she dead? Where is she? Why did she leave for so long, leaving her daughter seemingly unprotected and like with no knowledge of anything that's happening? Feels a little crazy, honestly. Yeah, everything was just so muddy, and if there is a second book, I probably will not read it. So I'm very saddened by it. I'm very sad that I didn't like it, and I'm hoping I'm wrong. Maybe someone can shed some light on me if anyone has read it and let me know how you feel about it. But for me, I couldn't do it, and I feel bad about that. So the next book that I read was One Day by David Nichols. Guys, I did not read this first. I saw the Netflix series on this book, and guys, that tore my heart apart so bad. I am still not recovered from that show, and it's been a few months already. I'm still heartbroken, and I understand why a lot of people rated this book on Goodreads low, but like, wow, like, you know, honestly, sometimes you don't get to have a happy ending. So there is some differing things from the book to what you saw on Netflix. You are pretty much looking at the first time that Emily Morley and Dexter Mayhew meet at a party, like a college party, graduation party, and they're all having fun, and they go back to her apartment. But he thinks that he's going to be getting like a one-night stand by See You Never. But she's just always had a crush on him, but he never knew that. But anyways, she just talks his ear off the entire night. But as much as he tries to run away, like, he doesn't. He finds himself that he can't quite leave yet. So this was just a beautiful love story, and you know, it follows them through when they meet on July 15th and of 1988, sorry, and it follows them for the next 20 years. So each chapter is 1 year. and we're getting both perspectives, both point of views of what they were doing. You know, each year, that's when they would kind of meet up and they'd write letters to each other because he's off in the TV industry and she is kind of doing like plays and things. She's trying to find her way pretty much. So she has like really odd jobs. Like she takes up like jobs in an acting, like an acting company, doing plays around like schools. So she goes through such a beautiful transformation of like not knowing what you want to do with your life. You graduated from college and now you're like, okay, now what do I do? And I could relate to that so hard. So I got her story so much, you know, but in the meantime, like she's trying to build these relationships, like, you know, she having, you know, partners in her life. But in the back of her mind, she always is thinking of Dexter Mayhew, and Dexter is out living his best life. He's partying, he's having different women, not really committing to anyone like ever. Emma, I don't know why I said Emily. He loves Emma so much, but I don't think he quite realizes that, like, for a number of years. But yeah, he goes through, you know, his own challenges with his family. And, you know, I obviously will not spoil this for anybody, but I don't know. I think I do prefer the Netflix series over the book just because there were some parts at the end that I did not like at all. But I will not say that because I do not want to ruin that for anybody who wants to read the book. But I recommend the series better. It was beautiful. It was so well done. It made you feel all the feels. It made you hurt, like hard. So if you like that type of thing, then go ahead and go for it. The next book that I read was Annie Bot by Sierra Greer. Guys, this was freaky creepy, if that's one way to put it. So we're following an AI robot, and her type of model are called Stellas, but her owner Doug likes to call her Annie Bot. So the premise of these Stella robots is that they are programmed to do, they could either be just a sex robot, they could be either like a caretaker, like a nanny, or they can like just clean your house if that's what you want them to do, but they like have one specific job. But in Doug's, he actually chose to remove that automation, and he kind of puts her in a setting where she can kind of, like, the only thing she has to do is please him. Like, she hates to not make him happy. Like, she knows that when he gets angry or he doesn't like something that she does, she starts to feel it. And so you kind of get it from her perspective that she's starting to feel things. And because of this, every time she goes in for like maintenance and checkups and stuff like that, to, you know, when she's there, if he tells like these scientists, hey, can you go ahead and make her boobs bigger, or give her a different hair color or eye color or different skin tone, like they can go ahead and do that while they're doing the maintenance checkups. But while they're doing the maintenance, they find that her, I guess it's called like a CIU in the book. I forgot what it like comes out to, but in her computer processing, they find that she is like rare. She's one of a kind. They want to copy her so that they can make more of her. More like robots that kind of adapt to their users. And that's what she does. She starts learning that she wants to be her own person. She starts feeling feelings, honestly. You know, she's a robot, but she's like, I want to be a person. I want to matter. I want to make my own decisions. And through this, you kind of just feel sorry for her because, you know, even though they tell her, like the scientists people, they're like, he's a very good owner, like you'll never have to worry, he's so good to you. And she's like, in her, like her computer brain, she's like, no, like this is not right. I don't want to be owned by him, and I want to like live my life. And that's what she does. So this is I say freaky because I believe, like, this reminds me of iRobot, like, because the robot starts caring for the owner, and so he does whatever the owner asks of him because he starts having feelings and he can think and feel. And yeah, it's scary, and I think it could be like a reality. But anyways, this was an interesting book. I don't know how to rate this. Just because of the way it ended, it's kind of like it left you wanting more. Like, what was she gonna do now? And I kind of want a second book. Like, if the author decides to make a second book to Anibot, I will read it because it was good. I don't know. It had a weird ending, so I don't know how to rate this really, but I guess because of the weird ending, I believe I gave this a 4-star on my Goodreads. I don't remember, but that seems to be where I would lean. And yeah, that was an interesting interesting concept. So okay, the next book that I read was All the Stars and Teeth by Adalyn Grace. This is my first book by Adalyn Grace. So I do have her other series, like the Belladonna and all that, but I haven't read those. But I decided to give this, because it's a duology, so I wanted to give that a try. And they didn't look too long, so I went ahead and tried that. So for this, we're following Amora, who's about to show off her magic, like it's a performance type thing. And she's supposed to get married to, his name is Ferric. But before that happens, she needs to show off her magic to make sure that she is in control of her magic and she's not letting the beast control her. So while she does her performance, unfortunately, the beast does appear. And what should have been a quick and easy, I guess, show, ends up being terrible and going very, very wrong. So she becomes imprisoned, and so they're like, her father's like, I'm sorry, I can't protect you from this. Everybody saw what you did. Like, there's no way of, like, you know, their way out of this. And even though she is like a princess, like, you still did something you weren't supposed to do. So then while she's in prison, his name is Bastian. He comes to save her. Like, him and his crew want to team up with Amora because right now there is an evil that is happening by the name of, I think the evil person is called Caven or something like that. And this Caven person is slowly trying to take over, you know, these places. So while sailing with Bastian, she finds that Ferric also joined. So it's kind of like, okay, she has these two guys, you know, Ferric, who she's forced to marry, and then Bastian, who is like this pirate, gorgeous man. So she pretty much, as she goes through this voyage with Bastian and Ferric and his team of other pirates, she learns that maybe her father isn't doing what he said that he was doing to help other cities, other villagers and things like that. Like, she starts seeing the reality of what her kingdom is doing to these cities, or better yet, what he's not doing for them. So she starts kind of finding out the things that are happening behind the scenes. They start going through different adventures. Like, we have mermaids, we have like the Kraken. So this definitely gives off Pirates of the Caribbean vibes, like, so much. This reminded me of the Pirates of the Caribbean, like, so much. Like, there was so many similarities. I was like, am I watching? Am I reading the Pirates of the Caribbean right now? But I don't know. I think I gave this a 4-star. Like, there's points that I liked about it. I mean, I'm probably still gonna read the second book just because I do have the audiobook loan, but I don't know how I felt about this because there's just so many parts where it was like, this is Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Like, so many of like some of the characters that get introduced, you're like, wow, this is very familiar. That's what it is. We learn, secrets are unveiled, so maybe I'll read for that part, like, of the things that are unveiled at the end. It did leave off, it had a very good ending for this book, so maybe for that reason alone I would read it. But yeah, yeah, so that's all for that. I have nothing else to say about this book. The next book that I read was The Wicked King by Holly Black. This is the second book in the Crow Prince, and this pretty much just continues to follow Jude and her adventures and the craziness that she is ensuing upon, and obviously her still trying to make the pieces fit so that she can protect her family. And honestly, there's really not much more to say about the plot, just because it's all kind of the same. Like, it follows the same thing. She just wants to protect her family, but she wants to stay in the fairy world. So I won't speak too much about that because it pretty much still follows the same premise. Still very politically heavy, very small snippets of a romance. Anyways, so the next book that I'm reading is, or that I read, sorry, I already read it. The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. This was such an interesting concept. I'm going to read what I wrote. So we start with Lauren. She's pretty much coming home from a night out with her friends, drinking and whatnot, and then she discovers that there's a husband, like a husband, just there, like, sweetie, where have you been? And she's like, what? Like, I don't know who you are. I've never had a husband in my life. So she's like, okay, I need to go to sleep. And so she goes to sleep. The next day, I guess like one of the bulbs or something goes out. He's like, I'm gonna go check upstairs in the attic and I'm gonna see if there's any light bulbs up there so I can change it. And he does. And when the guy comes back down, it's a different husband, and she's like, whoa, who are you? And she kind of like sends him back up, and then another one comes, and so she does that several times because she's like, what is going on? She's like, oh, there's something up there, can you go back up there? It's because she's testing it out, and she's like, okay, like, I'm stuck with this, I'm getting a husband now. But anyway, so after going through several husbands, she finally finds one that she kind of likes. And the funny thing about this is each time she gets a husband, like, her whole life changes. Like, her whole home decor changes, like the text and the emails, and, you know, everything kind of changes around her. Like, there's sometimes where her sister, you know, never had kids, or her sister never got married, or her sister doesn't speak to her, or her next door neighbors don't speak to her, or, you know, there's just different things that also change as well when she gets a new husband. So she kind of has to play these things she learns that she needs to find a good one. So she kind of does. I believe his name is Chris, is the one that she finds, and she really likes him, and he's there for a couple weeks, and she's like, this might actually be someone I can love and spend the rest of my life with. And he unfortunately and unknowingly goes up to the attic without her even realizing it, and a new husband comes down, and she is just so heartbroken after this, that after that she kind of like, I don't care anymore, I'm just gonna go ahead and just, whoever comes down, I'm gonna try to spend some time with. And she finds that the next husband after this one leaves, he's a pretty well off. So she then finds that one of her old husbands previously is actually working as their gardener. So she's like, wait a minute, I never thought that maybe these people are actually people in real life just living out there that have no idea that they're my husband. And then once I get a new one, then they go back to their lives. So she starts doing a deep dive, and she sees that the guy, Chris, she actually liked, is out there. He lives in Colorado. One day gets a crazy idea, and she's like, I'm gonna go to Colorado. I'm gonna make him fall in love with me. I'm the one for him, and it's gonna all go back. She's like, I can get a divorce. I can get a divorce, and we never have to go back in the attic again. So pretty much after she discovers that he's like, he feels uncomfortable with her, she's like, okay, I'm going back, because I think she lives, she goes back to London, and she gives up on that. So then she goes and sends up her old husband, and she's like, okay, bring me a new one. And this new one she finds is actually someone like her. He gets new partners, but he actually gets either or. He can get a man or he can get a woman. He never really knows, but he's been through so many, and he's been doing it for almost 3 years, like only been doing it for 6 months. And his portal is like a pantry in the kitchen or something like that, or like, so, but he can leave. Unlike her, she has to stay in her own life. But after this, I think she starts to go a little crazy, and she becomes unhinged. And she starts making some irrational decisions, and she starts doing things that I don't think she normally would do, but because of her circumstances and what she's going through and all these different men, like, I think she starts losing it for a bit, and she's like, okay. And that's pretty much where it, like, kind of just leaves off. So I gave this a 4-star, just because it just kind of abruptly ends, and you're like, wow, that was it. We went through this entire adventure. We never really get an answer in regards to the attic and why this is happening and to who this is happening. And it was a time, like, this was a very crazy concept, but I had a fun time reading it. Gave it a 4 stars just because of the ending. Again, it just ended kind of like Annie Bot just ended, and it's like, okay, I guess that's what we get. Kind of like Game of Thrones. It's like, that's the ending we got, so that's the ending we're gonna, I guess, have. Yeah, this was okay. This was okay read for me. And the last book that I read, my 15th, hopefully I counted right, my 15th book. It's called Written in the Stars by Alexandria Belfler. And I'll put that here because I don't have that book physically. This one was such a cute little quick read. This is following Darcy and Elle, and they pretty much start off like they're on a blind date, and it soon becomes a fake dating. It's a girl-girl romance and convenient relationship, just because they both are like, okay, we'll be in this fake relationship because we want to get these people in our lives off our backs and to stop pestering us about what we're doing with our love lives and are we ever gonna settle down. And so, but obviously they agree to go on couple dates, like, oh, if you come with me to this escape room date with my brother, it's like, okay, well then you have to come with me to Thanksgiving for, with my family. So you see them start doing things, apart from those things that they had already agreed on. So it is a very cute story, and I definitely like their characters. They both come from, I wouldn't say terrible home life, definitely one where they struggled and they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, they don't feel like they're good enough. So it is nice to see how they kind of stick up for themselves throughout this book and kind of are like, hey, I matter, I'm a person. Just because you don't like my decisions that I've made in my life doesn't mean that you get to dictate what I do. Like, this is still my life. I'm trying to find my happiness. So I definitely did like that a lot. I like how they stuck up for themselves. I like how they put their foots down. I like how they communicated, not only with those that, they were feeling unheard and unseen by, but also they communicated well with themselves. So it was a beautiful story. I loved it. It was such a good read, such a good book. I did give this a 5-star. And I believe I do have another book by Alexandria Bellfleur. I think it's called like The Fiancé Farce or something. So I'm excited to read that and see how that one is. Since I did enjoy this one so much. It was very light, very airy, very cute. And yes, I recommend this if you are into girl romance, fake dating trope. It was a fun time. So thank you so much. That is all for me. I am done. I read so many books. My throat is starting to hurt for talking so much. I've never talked so much in my life about reading so many books in a month. So congratulations to me, I guess. But anyways, that is all. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning in. Please let me know in the comments below, what have you read this month? Have you read any of the books that I read? Did you have different opinions than me? Please let me know. I would love to chat about it with you. Also follow me on my Instagram, Stephanies_little library, all lowercase. And please like, please subscribe. And I will see you next time. Bye.